Clint Walker, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Clint. I'm Randy Hansen. In today's world news headlines, 25 killed in Iraq bombing after bloodiest month since U.S. withdrawal. And Assad voices regret for downing of Turkey's jet. Rebels skip Cairo meeting. And UN urges end to arming of rebels Assad forces. And HRW torture widespread under Assad regime. Mexican students protest election results. López Obrador refuses to concede. And Peña Nieto confirms commitment to drug war crackdown. Afghan officer kills 3 NATO troops. And pharma giant GlaxoSmithKline fined record $3 billion for healthcare fraud. And Twitter ordered to provide info of Occupy protesters. And U.S. account for bulk of government requests on private Twitter accounts. And Florida to opt out of Medicaid expansion. And 3 activists to appear in court for anti-drone protest. And scores arrested protesting Vermont nuclear plant. And Shell wins protest-free buffer zone around Arctic drilling ship. And U.S. denies visa to Afghanistan-based peace activists. And psychiatrist, gay rights advocate Dr. Richard Assay dies at 77. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, at least 25 people have been killed and more than 50 wounded in a car bombing in Iraq city of Diwaniyah. The attack targeted a crowded market. It came hours after 4 people were killed and more than 20 were wounded in another bombing in Iraq city of Kerbala. With sectarian attacks on the rise, at least 237 people were killed in Iraq last month, making June one of the bloodiest since U.S. forces withdrew. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has expressed regret at downing a Turkish air jet that stoked tension with neighboring Turkey last month. Speaking to a Turkish newspaper, Assad said he would not allow the incident to escalate into combat between the two countries. In other Syrian news, dozens of members of Syria's opposition met at Cairo on Monday to formulate a new transition from the Assad rule. Syrian rebels boycotted the gathering, calling it a potential front for foreign intervention. Syrian forces continued to bombard the Damascus suburb of Douma with heavy shelling. At the United Nations, UN's top security rights official, Navi Pillay, said the arming of both sides of the Syria conflict is creating a dangerous situation. There is risk of escalation. The provisions of arms to the Syrian government and to its opponents is fueling the violence. Any further militarization of the conflict must be avoided at all costs, Pillay said. In Syria news, Human Rights Watch has released a report accusing the Assad regime of widespread torture. Human Rights Watch researcher Ole Solvang said interviews with Syrian torture victims pointed to a network of torture centers across Syria and said what's absolutely clear from this report is that torture is widespread and systematic. The amount of information that we have collected indicates a clear state policy and a clear tolerance of the use of torture, and really Syrian authorities is running a network of tortured centers, network of torture chambers scattered across Syria. Widespread and systematic nature of this network makes it clear, and it constitutes crime against humanity. In Mexico, students took to the streets on Monday to protest the election of PRI candidate Enrique Peña Nieto and call for an investigation into voter fraud. Peña Nieto's main opponent, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, is still refusing to concede the race, leaving open possibility of a court challenge. In remarks on Monday, Peña Nieto pledged to continue with the crackdown against drug cartels and drug war that has seen tens of thousands of deaths. Peña Nieto was tapped General Oscar Naranjo, the former head of the Colombia's National Police, to be his security advisor, and signaling he will likely continue the U.S.-backed drug war in the same vein as his predecessor, President Felipe Calderón. Naranjo has orchestrated a U.S. crackdown against cocaine traffickers in Colombia and drug lord Pablo Escobar. 47,000 people have died since Calderón took power in 2006 and announced crackdown on drug cartels. Speaking to Washington State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland congratulated Peña Nieto for his apparent victory and said the U.S. expects continued drug war cooperation with the Mexican government, and said, "We're not going to get ahead of the formal seating of new government and predicting changes in policy one way or the other, but we are committed to working in a partnership with Mexico to meet evolving challenges posed to transnational criminal organizations. And we expect that a great cooperation is going to continue with Peña Nieto's administration when it is seated." In Afghanistan, at least 3 British soldiers have been killed in shootings by an Afghan police officer. It was the latest of a wave of attacks by members of the Afghan forces against foreign troops with the U.S.-led NATO occupation. Pharmaceutical company GlaxoSmithKline has agreed to a $3 billion fine, guilty plea on criminal charges in what has been described as the biggest case of healthcare fraud in U.S. history. Justice Department led the probe, found the company promoted the antidepressant Paxil and Wellbutrin for unapproved uses, including marketing Paxil to children when it was only approved for adults. Prosecutors say GlaxoSmithKline promoted the drugs by distributing a misleading journal article and giving doctors perks that amounted to illegal kickbacks. Prosecutors also contend the company failed to give the U.S. Food and Drug Administration safety data about the diabetes drug Avandia, which has been linked to heart risk. Deputy Attorney General James Cole unveiled a settlement on Monday and said this action constitutes the largest healthcare fraud settlement in United States history. We're determined to stop practices that jeopardize patients' health, harm taxpayers, and violate the public trust. Consumer advocacy group Public Citizens said the $3 billion settlement does not go far enough because the fines pale in comparison to the drug company's profits. In a statement, Public Citizens said until more meaningful penalties and prospect of jail time for company heads responsible for such activity become commonplace, companies will continue defrauding the government and putting patients' lives at danger. New York judge has ordered social media site Twitter to hand over account details and message history of an Occupy Wall Street protester. Twitter had been called on to provide prosecutors with tweets written by Malcolm Harris, protester who was arrested with hundreds of others during the Occupy march across the Brooklyn Bridge October 1st. But Twitter had sought to avoid the order, saying it constitutes an undue burden and violation of freedom of speech. In a statement, the American Civil Liberties Union criticized the ruling, saying, "Do individuals give up their ability to go to court and try to protect their free speech and privacy rights when they use the internet?" The answer has to be no. Twitter has revealed U.S. law enforcement agencies account for the vast majority of requests for its users' private information. At around 850 government requests for user information worldwide, 80% came from the United States. And less than a week after the U.S. Supreme Court upheld key parts of President Obama's health care law, Florida Governor Rick Scott says his state will take advantage of the court's ruling that states can opt out of the law's Medicaid expansion. The court said in its landmark decision last week the states could choose not to expand Medicaid to cover low-income people, and that the federal government could not punish states by withholding Medicaid funds. Florida is the largest state so far to firmly declare it will still take advantage of that ruling. Governor Scott also said the state would decline to set up a health insurance exchange under the new law, opting not to provide a regulated market where people can purchase insurance. More than 1/5 of Florida's residents currently lack health insurance. 3 peace activists are appearing in court following their arrest last week outside the Hancock Field Air National Guard base near Syracuse, New York. The 3 were among 15 people jailed for protesting U.S. drone attacks on Thursday, but they remain behind bars in non-compliance with their sentencing requirements under a conviction for a previous anti-drone protest earlier this year. During Thursday's action, the protesters displayed an image of young victims of the U.S. drone strikes as they blocked the base's main entrance. Nearly 40 protesters have been arrested in Vermont. At the gates of Vermont Yankee Nuclear Power Plant, Vermont's lawmakers have tried to shutter the plant, but is still in operation after its parent company, Entergy Corporation, won an extension from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and subsequent court battle. The Vermont Yankee facility is one of the oldest in the country, has had a series of radioactive titanium leaks. Sunday, anti-nuclear activists approached the Yankee plant with a 600-pound handmade Trojan cow filled with renewable energy devices. Organizers say they plan to launch a flotilla next month to raise awareness about the plants polluting the Connecticut River. Oil giant Shell has obtained what critics are calling a protest-free zone around the drilling vessels set to begin operation in Alaska's Arctic coast later this month. U.S. Coast Guard has granted Shell's Noble Discovery vessel a 500-meter safety zone that no demonstrators will be allowed to enter. Environmental group Greenpeace says it plans to defy the restrictions despite the threat of penalties. Shell bids to begin exploratory drilling in the Arctic has approved last month over the objections of indigenous and environmental groups. And a Singapore physician and peace activist who has been working in Afghanistan has been denied permission to enter the United States. Dr. Wee Tek Young of the Afghan Peace Volunteers has been invited to speak at an anti-war caravan across the United States beginning in September. But last week, U.S. consular officials in Singapore denied Dr. Young's visa request. The group's Voice for Creative Nonviolence is urging supporters to protest the move. The psychiatrist and gay rights advocate, Dr. Richard Assay, has died at the age of 77. Dr. Assay came out as a gay man, as a married father in his 40s, and went on to lead a pivotal effort to stop his profession from treating homosexuality as a disease. And that's it for World News today. Now we would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. You could be one of these underwriters.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and pictures in the blotter not from these actual events but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department. On Sunday, 9:03 a.m., caller from 100 block of Bank Street reported a theft and a misuse of a bank card. 9:49 a.m., caller from 300 block of South Church Street reported finding a woman under a motorhome. She was arrested on suspicion of being under the influence of a controlled substance. 10:32 a.m., caller from business 900 block of LeBar Meadow Roads reported a burglary and a theft of computers. 5:47 p.m., caller from 100 block of Mill Street reported screaming man who was given a ride to a fast food restaurant. And 6:50 p.m., caller from 300 block of Colfax Avenue reported a man stole an iTouch and fled. He could not be located. 8:03 p.m., caller from Memorial Park reported hearing firecrackers. The juveniles responsible had left. And 8:20 p.m., caller from Condon Park reported a man barely able to stand talking to himself. He was arrested on suspicion of being under the influence of a controlled substance. And 8:29 p.m., a woman from 100 block of South Auburn Street reported finding a bag with 2 large rocks of suspected drugs. It was collected for destruction. 8:50 p.m., caller from 1200 block of East Main Street reported a dispute with a man trying to hit another person with his car. And 8:53 p.m., a caller from 900 block of Old Tunnel Road reported the theft of money. 9:53 p.m., caller from 200 block of East Main Street reported boys asking people to buy them alcohol. They were headed home for the night. And Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Sunday, 8:51 a.m., caller from 22,000 block of West Hacienda Drive reported someone drove a golf cart into a lawn and caused damage by doing donuts. The golf cart had been abandoned in a ditch along with a large mattress. 9:22 a.m., a woman from Highway 20 reported an 11-year-old boy was out of control and hit her in the chest 3 times. 9:46 a.m., caller from Brunswick and Idaho Maryland Road reported road rage. At 10:05 a.m., caller from Combead Road reported a juvenile tried to steal a bottle of Jack Daniels last night. 11:10 a.m., caller from 14,000 block of Hidden Rock Drive reported possible check fraud. At 11:14 a.m., a caller from Lake of the Pines reported a person tried to take a golf cart. 11:24 a.m., caller from Adam Avenue and Squirrel Creek Road reported a physical fight involving two people. Report was unfounded. 11:45 a.m., a woman from 11,000 block of Torrey Pines Drive reported a person tried to break into her vehicle last night. She had the incident on video. 11:49 a.m., caller from Long Valley and Indian Springs Road reported a person drove through mailboxes. 12:44 p.m., caller from Steep Hollow Creek reported people on dirt bikes and quad riders were admonished. 1:56 p.m., a caller from Highway 20 and Conservation Camp Road reported a dead bear cub. 3:29 p.m., caller from 14,000 block of Sky Pines Road reported a person spraying plants with weed killer during the night. And 4:06 p.m., a caller from Bowman Lake Road reported a burglary to a vehicle. 4:49 p.m., caller from Candido Lane reported a person in camouflage hiding into bushes and trying to look in windows. Juveniles were admonished for a prank. And 5:54 p.m., a woman from 19,000 block of Mountain Line Road reported theft of jewelry. 7:37 p.m., a woman reported a family fight with a person hitting her in the head with a chair. Suspect also hit a man in the face and with a chair, threatened to put bullets in the caller's head. A man was arrested on suspicion of battery and failing to comply with a court order. 6:02 p.m., caller from Sharon Way reported a burglary to a wine cellar and a lockbox and disappearance of several koi fish. 6:04 p.m., caller from 13,000 block of Placer Lane reported burglary to a cabin with alcohol missing. And 6:18 p.m., a man from 12,000 block of Flying T Road reported a missing horse. 7:06 p.m., caller from 13,000 block of Capitol Drive reported hearing 3 rifle shots. And 7:47 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Alderwood Way reported a house had been broken into. 7:55 p.m., caller from Purdon Road reported a man was hit in the head with a 2x4. And 10:32 p.m., a man from 10,000 block of School Street reported a nude and drunken woman crying on a porch. She was arrested on suspicion of being drunk in public. 11:06 p.m., a woman from 12,000 block of Scenic Drive reported a bear in her front yard breaking into a freezer. She was advised to leave it alone and remove the freezer later. 11:52 p.m., caller from 10,000 block of Pine View Heights reported a person banging on a window and yelling. Situation was mediated. Monday, 2:25 a.m., a caller from 11,000 block of Ridge Road reported a person in a backyard who could not be located. 2:33 a.m., a man called multiple times yelling expletives and talking about Homeland Security. 7:48 a.m., a caller from 12,000 block of Auburn Road reported the theft of a flag. And Nevada City Police Department on Tuesday, 1:08 p.m., caller from Highway 49 and Gold Flat Road reported a man lying on the side of the freeway who was advised not to walk on the freeway. 1:59 p.m., caller from Commercial and North Pond Street reported people starting to get out of control. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now we'd like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Like desserts? They got 'em. You like international style lunches? They got 'em. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. In local news headlines, man faces 2 DUI causing death felony charges in fatal pedestrian crosswalk crash. An withheld identity of a suspect shot by deputy, and Grass Valley policeman promoted. Out of Incline Village in Nevada, Grass Valley man could be facing 4 to 40 years in prison for his alleged role in a fatal pedestrian crosswalk incident New Year's Eve weekend on North Shore of Lake Tahoe. Christopher Torrey Smith, who was 25 at the time, December incident, Grass Valley man had his pre-preliminary hearing scheduled 9 a.m. July 18th. James V. Mancuso Justice Court in Incline Village said Michael Bollenbaker, a deputy district attorney of Washoe County, was involved too. Smith is charged with 2 counts of driving under the influence of a prohibited substance causing death. According to the charging documents filed on June 1st, Smith had marijuana in his system at the time of the incident, and he failed to yield the right-of-way of the pedestrians. The amount of marijuana in his system blood was identified as greater than or equal to 5 nanograms per milliliter. After reviewing the facts in the case, felonies appeared to be the appropriate charge, Bollenbaker said Monday. Phone calls to attorney Michael Castillo and Michael L. Becker of the Las Vegas Defense Group, who were representing Smith, were not returned at the time of the story here. A court document indicates Becker filed a waiver of appearance for the arraignment on June 4th. Judge E. Alan Terrace granted the waiver the following day. According to previous reports, Smith was driving a black 2006 Chevrolet pickup southbound east towards San Harbor on Highway 28 east of Village Boulevard intersection shortly before 8 p.m. Friday, December 30th, when his truck struck Linda Mathis and Robert Mathis, who were crossing the east side. Mathises, who were Incline residents, both 46, died from injuries suffered. According to published reports, witness statement and evidence at the scene indicated the Mathises were in a close to painted crosswalk location near Tahoe Regional Transit Agency bus stop in front of the Radio Shack when they were struck. Smith, who was suspected to be under the influence of drugs at the time of the crash, was booked into Washoe County Jail on suspicion of 2 counts of DUI causing death, failed to yield to pedestrians. His bail was set at $60,200. He was released from jail that weekend. In March, Castillo and Becker said they were confident that if charges were filed, they would build a solid case once the discovery process begins, considering uncertainty exists regarding Smith's toxicology results and whether or not the Mathises were in the crosswalk. Furthermore, the apparent inherent danger of that crosswalk could also be called into question, Castillo said in March. According to Nevada law, each charge is considered Category B felony, carries a maximum prison term of 20 years and a fine between $2,000 and $5,000. Each charge also carries a minimum of 2 years in prison. According to the law, if found guilty, any prison term is recommended to be served in a minimum security facility away from violent offenders. Phone calls to the Nevada Highway Patrol seeking a copy of the full investigation report were yet to be returned. This was a union story. And by the way, another story came out that they are going to charge him with felonies. In a story written by Liz Keller, the union identity of a man who was shot by Sierra County Sheriff's deputies after allegedly brandishing a firearm in North San Juan bar being withheld Monday. Suspect's personal information will not be released until he has been arrested, Sierra County Sheriff John Evans said. The man was wounded in the shooting early Sunday morning and is being treated at a local hospital. A bartender and customer at the Brass Rail in North San Juan called 911 at about 1:20 a.m. to report a man was screaming at people and brandishing a handgun. They apparently were able to force the man outside and lock themselves in the building. The man was armed with a semi-automatic handgun, according to Captain Shannon Moon. After he left the saloon, he engaged in a physical altercation in the saloon parking lot with another man. Moon said in a press release, he then reportedly got in his vehicle and left, driving northbound on Highway 49. A Sierra County Sheriff's deputy on patrol located the suspect driving south in Goodyear's bar a little after 2 a.m., tried to make a traffic stop, but the man allegedly failed to yield and accelerated through the town of Donnieville at high speeds. He was driving on Highway 49 at about 80 miles per hour and threw something from the vehicle, according to dispatch reports. Several miles north of Donnieville, the vehicle stopped and threatened the deputy, who fired a shot, striking the suspect. The deputy was not injured. The suspect is recovering in a hospital and is awaiting arrest on felony charges in both counties upon his release. Investigators from the Nevada County Sheriff's Major Crime Unit and the Nevada County District Attorney's Office are leading the investigation into the officer-involved shooting. The California Department of Justice Crime Laboratory responded and assisted investigators with the collection of evidence. The case is pending evidence analysis, and further witness statements. In a story written by Trina Kleist of the union, Alex Gamelgard has been an officer with the Grass Valley Police Department for 7 years. He'll spend the next few years as a sergeant. City Council members approved Gamelgard's promotion last week, replacing former Sergeant Doug Wren, who retired last year. His wife, Erika Gammelgard, pinned new insignia to his uniform in a ceremony during the June 26 City Council meeting as Mayor Janet Arbuckle looked on. Gammelgard has mentioned new and inexperienced officers as a field training officer was assigned to the department's former special incident team, where he received tactical training and in 2009 was assigned to the detective division. Police Chief John Foster wrote in a report to the council, Officer Gammelgard continually demonstrates a strong work ethic and repeatedly exhibits his ability to make sound decisions and support the organization's mission, Foster wrote. Gammelgard also is president of the Grass Valley Police Officers Association, representing about 21 employees. He is a Gonzaga University graduate with a degree in business and administration. Another sergeant position remains open but frozen due to budget cuts. That was created scheduling problems for the department, Foster wrote. There is an immediate need to fill the 4th vacant sergeant position, Foster also wrote. And that's it today for local news. Now we'd like to thank the Union, Amy Goodman, Reuters, Associated Press, and others for the Source Sniffer News, and you for watching. And you can watch this broadcast on Comcast Cable NCTV Channel 11 in Nevada County, 8 a.m., 3 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. And we have 2 new times, Saturday 10:30 a.m. and Sunday 8 a.m. and Suddenlink Channel 16 in Truckee and Alta Sierra. We also are streamed on the internet at NCTV's Digital Media Center website, NevadaCountyTV.org, and our website, GVTV.org. Don't forget Grass Valley Television plays 24/7 on the net, grassvalleytelevision.com. We post to Facebook. You should go on there and like us. YouTube, blip.tv, and many other sites. We have RSS feed and video podcast on iTunes. Just search under video podcast for GVTV News. We are happy that NCDMC has moved and it's time for content again, and well, we're ready to go. Grass Valley Television also videotapes local events around Nevada County. You can contact us for more information, grassvalleytelevision@gmail.com. 530-362-8889. This show produced by Grass Valley Television of Rural Counties Television Network. And we hope you will keep tuned in to our new season as we are going to spice up the news in the future.